if you want to manage 10, 15, or maybe even 20 to 25 distribution channels, you need to be able to close dates when you get new reservations on all the platforms at the same time. Make sure that your content, all your pictures, your descriptions, all of the amenities are distributed equally to all the platforms. And you want to be managing that operation. And the more channels you can actually adopt and the more channels you can actually activate, then you have a better upper funnel in your marketing mix. And you can be less dependent on one player or on one stream of income.
Welcome to Short Term Rental Solutions, a show for hosts and property managers looking to overcome obstacles, maximize revenue, and optimize their short term rental business by learning from the innovators who are designing the solutions that are shaping our industry. Welcome to this week's episode of the Short Term Rental Solutions Show. We're going to be talking about channel management today and learning a little bit about how channel management is a very important aspect of the short-term rental business that if you haven't already been looking into and figuring out your channel management strategy, this episode's really going to be helpful for you. So we're here today with Lennart Kok, who is the Director of Distribution and Partnerships at Nextpax. So Lennart, we're so glad to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me on the show and to relate to the topic of channel management. As you rightfully say, is a very present and important topic for any short-term rental business in the industry. And yeah, the concept of channel management is constantly evolving. So I'm really glad that I could be on the show to give some insights.
Absolutely. So this is one of the things I love to do to kick off episodes is really get to know our guests. As I say frequently, this is a people industry. It's all about relationships. And so we would love to learn a little bit about you real quick, how you got yourself into this short-term rental business and found yourself with Nextpax.
Yeah, the funny thing about the short-term rental business is that it started to compete with the hotel industry in some sort and shape, right? And I'm actually coming from the hotel industry. I have started my career within Hilton Worldwide in corporate sales, selling contracts towards corporates. And then I found, okay, I wanted to go more in technology. So I joined Booking.com, which is arguably one of the largest OTAs around. And there I learned that aside from hotel chain business, there was also this upcoming vacation rental industry where Booking.com also participated early days with Villas.com and then later on had a full ramp up in this industry. There I learned about technology. I've been involved in supplier connectivity, but also in demand connectivity, and I've been able to run partnerships of all size. When a former client of me at Booking.com, Nextpax, started to say, hey, well, maybe we can mean more for each other. And that's how I landed with Nextpax Travel Technology. Nextpax Travel Technology is a channel manager that started to operate first as a property manager in 2006. And they wanted to distribute towards all these amazing channel platforms that were already like doing a lot of hotel bookings. But they found that there were so many issues in doing that on a scalable way. And they thought also, okay, we're not the only company that has this problem. Let's start this as a technology company and purely focus on how do we connect accommodation partners in a scalable way towards channels, distribution channels, in order to widen the upper funnel net for bookings from guests all around the world. That's basically how Nextbox started and how we evolved from first being a property manager into a travel technology company. And this is way back, obviously, but that's our origin. That's where we came from. And the CEO, Eric Engel, and the CTO, Robert van der Mast, actually found each other in this endeavor and really, yeah, have been ruthless in prioritization and building the right features for some of the largest partners in this industry to be able to do that.
That's great. And so you kind of spoke a little bit to it, but kind of what are some of these strategic reasons that a channel manager should be an important part of the business model or the business systems that you put in place.
Yeah, let me first of all start with the reason why accommodation partners want to work with us, right?
Sure.
And accommodation partners want to work with channel managers and companies like us that because they can make sure to widen the upper funnel marketing mix. You have your direct mix where you have your own website and maybe you have offline reservations or you have a very how you call it loyal group of customers who are calling your customer service and making direct bookings every year. But
Yep.
more and
Your
more we
repeat
see, of
your
course,
repeat guests.
yeah, indeed. So more and more nowadays you see that bookings are coming from all kind of online sales channels. And first of all, we are in this business to enable that for you in a technological way. And the point there is, if you want to manage 10, 15, or maybe even 20 to 25 distribution channels, you need to be able to close dates when you get new reservations on all the platforms at the same time. Make sure that your content, all your pictures, your descriptions, all of the amenities are distributed equally to all the platforms. And you want to be managing that operation. And the more channels you can actually adopt and the more channels you can actually activate, then you have a better upper funnel in your marketing mix. And you can be less dependent on one player or on one stream of income. And that is the reason why people are really looking for a channel manager. On top of that, channel managers deliver in general operational efficiency when it comes to, well, your marketing team in terms of like making sure that all the pictures are according to brand standards across all the platforms. B, in your customer service operations, as we are providing messaging and review options and automations towards messaging. So, for instance, one example there is, well, if you have to answer because platforms require that the reviews that guests leave, yeah,
Yes.
you may want to automatically find a solution for your 5-star reviews. And in order to save all these response times that your customer service agents as a property manager or if, even you as an owner, if you are smaller in size, have to answer. So there's an operational gain, there's definitely a commercial gain. And yeah, as you want to focus on welcoming guests, as making the guest experience as much as possible a frictionless one, yeah,
Mhm.
then you can use a channel manager to basically make sure that from search to book process to after sales, a lot of stuff is automated.
Yes. Well, and the concept of content, synchronizing the content across all those different platforms. I had a brief period of time where I hadn't put together a solution. I wasn't working with a solution that synced the content on all those platforms. So when I
Yeah,
made changes on Airbnb, I had to, to the listing title or photos, I had to then go from Airbnb into VRBO and make those changes. And if you only have one or two properties, it, you know, it's manageable, but it completely doesn't scale. So if you're wanting to put together a system that has the potential to scale, then it's essential that you have this type of a solution. And
yeah.
so, and then also you were saying automating the reviews and messaging.
Yeah, so just to hint back on that content piece also a little bit, because in 2012 we were approached and were working already for a very large player in the European market that has over 40,000 properties.
Mm,
And there, this content solution was imminent because
right.
there's of course no reason that you can, no way that you can do that A in a scalable way, but also in a revenue positive way to update all of the pictures of 40,000 homes and all of the characteristics. And
Right.
now, in terms of messaging, it is the same. If you are a mid-sized to large property manager, but also for a smaller property manager, and aside from managing this distribution effort, right,
Mhm.
and managing all the incoming queries that can come from reservations on all of these platforms, you're also checking in guests. You're making sure that the property is up to the standards. You're checking if the cleaners did the right work. There are so many tasks involved for property managers in this field. that we love where we can to automate responses, for instance, and to automate also the responses that we deliver to guest reviews. And I said we can deliver automations based on the type of guest review you got as a property manager. So, for instance, a 5-star review could easily be responded. Thank you very much for this amazing review. We are very happy that you had a lovely stay at our home or at our apartment. And that is an auto response. Still personal, in my opinion, but
Mhm.
then your customer service teams or you as an owner can really focus on potentially that one time that it didn't go so well with a guest. And then you can really focus on providing that personal touch, which is impeccable or very important to make sure that you do either damage control or that you turn around the situation.
Right. Well, and so this concept of automating as much as you can, but there are certain situations that come up in the course of a guest stay that will require that, custom messaging to make sure, especially it's likely when you're trying to recover something that perhaps went wrong
Yeah.
or address a unique need or want that that guest potentially has. But yeah,
No.
automating as much as possible. So
Yeah.
a lot of different ways that Nextpax can, help with that. I think, there's potentially a little bit of information that would be worth sharing about the difference between a property management software and a channel manager, because there's lots of property management software companies that allow us to connect to a variety of channels, but then it's interesting these standalone channel managers like Nextpax provide something even a step further. So why would someone still need a solution like Nextpax if they have a property management software?
Yeah, I think if you look from the early days, because we are also connected with many property management softwares, and they are still present in our ecosystem. So we still partner also with a lot of PMS systems. But I think in the early days, PMS systems were designed in order to deliver software that could enable operations from property managers. There was an owner module in which you can have good contact with homeowners. There is the reservations manager. There was something about consumer payments. There is something about that it fuels the direct website. And then suddenly all these portals came up. And where channel managers previously have succeeded quite a bit in is that they, in a large space, because it's all based on the same technology, could build up this network of sales channels. And that's where channel managers have bought themselves an impactful space in relation with the PMS partnerships, with the PMS systems. So if I would say, and that difference, by the way, is disappearing because, and I'll get back to that for two reasons. But first, PMS systems were really tailored and focused towards bringing operational gain, while channel managers were really focused on bringing reservations, transactions, making sure that we optimize for conversion, making sure that the properties are advertised in such a way that you really get the most out of all the channels you activate. Now, I told you already that these vital differences in the past are merging, and they are merging for two reasons. More and more, channel managers are also, like us, are also focused on delivering operational gains, as I told already, with messaging automation and a lot of other features. And PMS systems are also building connectivity. So your question is a right one. And I would even bring up the questions, is there still a distinction between PMS systems and channel managers? And so the answer of that, whether channel managers and or PMS systems and which system has the overhand in the industry, that remains unclear. I think what you have to do as if you are a property manager is that you really have to look at the capabilities of systems and what you actually need. And another vital difference between PMS systems and sort of the standalone channel managers, or at least us, but I know a few other examples, is that PMS systems are really sold as SaaS technologies. So you buy a package, you pay X per month, and if there are additional features around the base product, you pay extra. And with us as a channel manager, but also with some other solutions in the market, there we see really that we are providing all the features that we possibly can to optimize for conversion. Because again, relating to my point earlier, channel managers by history have been in the business to create transactions. So we are a transaction powered business
Yeah,
that
booking focused.
booking focused, and PMS from origin were operationally focused or managing finance correctly, managing housekeeping correctly. But these systems are getting intertwined much more, and the channel managers developing their own features for operational efficiency or standard or all-in-one features. And you see PMS systems building channel connectivity. So yeah, the next 5 years going to be very interesting, and maybe it's even the next 3 years or the next 12 months.
The
But
lines are definitely getting blurry. I agree. We
yeah,
definitely
it's getting so that's why also Nextpax is our short name, but as you can see on this T-shirt, we say Nextpax Travel Technology, and that's essentially the case. PMS systems and channel managers, they transform in travel technology, and yeah, that's going to be the thing moving forward.
exactly. Well, and so my thoughts on that as well are I agree. There is a lot of blurring and a lot of overlap that's starting to come, which is great because as users, it gives us options and we can really choose something that works best for our business. But it's surprising to me as I got looking, there's literally, I think, what do you guys connect to? Almost 150 or 150 plus potential platforms for listing.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not going to be something, one property isn't going to distribute to 150 platforms, but even if you only get a handful of bookings off of those other platforms, you want your listing to be seen by as many number of eyes as possible. And
Yeah,
so really discovering which one of those additional platforms makes sense to connect to, that's definitely worth it, especially as the conversation about market saturation and whatnot continues to pick up. One of the ways that you can potentially have an advantage is by ramping up your distribution compared to your local competition.
yeah, correct. So as we have seen in US market, but also here in Europe and in APAC also, is that demand is under pressure. And that's why over the past 30 days even, in middle of high season, partners come to us, okay, let's widen the net. And they do that because it comes back to this marketing principle. If demand is drying up, you need to widen your upper funnel. You need to do more in order to get your same conversion in place.
Right.
And that's where the power of our platform really comes into place. And yes, the fact that we have 150 channels doesn't mean that a property manager activates 150 plus channels. But what it does mean is this, that there is a lot of variety to choose from.
Exactly.
And we have both global or continental operating channels, but we have also channels. An example is Denemark.de, which is very good in bringing German travelers to a Danish destination market. And sort of these regional channels we also have in the US. And we have also channels which are focused on a specific niche. If you own, for instance, vacation rentals close to a golf course or in the vicinity of a golf course, there are sales channels like golfon.com that operate exactly in that segment. And so that
Which is,
enables you as property manager to distinguish your distribution and your
yes.
marketing, basically.
And that's one of the things that's been so interesting to me is really learning about all these kind of niche platforms. And then also, I think there's people who don't necessarily understand the difference between an OTA and a meta search solution. Like there's actually a bunch of different categories that some of these platforms fit into. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think if you look at the industry right now, there you could say there are three giants in the industry, and that is undoubtedly speaking Booking.com, Airbnb, and Vrbo.
Yes.
And what I see a lot of the times is that property managers in the past, when this vacation rental bubble came up, they thought, okay, if I just list with one of these three, I'm well saturated in my income, and I can start to scale properties and I can grow. yes, that has been for a long time a perfect strategy. But what you now see is that you want to even widen the net further, and that's also powered by the availability of technology and the availability of more sales channels throughout the globe. So that those three represent, with a couple of others, core OTA. Then you have particular meta search platforms, and those started with the original meta search partners, Trivago, TripAdvisor, and also Kayak being in that space. But what the meta search business is really challenged by is Google vacation rentals, and the fact that search engines have started to think, hey, this is an interesting business. Why don't I directly land those searches that people make in Google, but soon also Microsoft advertising, and this industry is really developing at a large pace. The search engine direct to vacation rental, yeah, and travel engines, that we may see other search engines also to step in that place. And that is really interesting because via our channel manager, you can directly put your brand and feature your brand in the way you want, redirecting bookings to your own website. And suddenly the larger search engine can deliver bookings to you directly rather than going through OTA businesses or other sites or other channels where, yeah, there is a commercial factor for delivery of services. And these meta searches, they can provide you in more direct brand attention. So that ecosystem is changing rapidly. And for us, it's just, as a channel manager, it's important to offer all of these platforms. And all of these platforms also have their unique value proposition. And it's for the accommodation partner, and we're sort of, yeah, how you call it, the neutral in that. We
Mhm.
advise the best possibilities of every channel to decide what's best for my mix. And what you see is that accommodation partners in general, they like that search engine business because it directs to their own website, but they are also really keen on getting these top three players always integrated, and some they have favor for two or even one, and then combined with a lot of VR listing sites that are focused on a particular segment. So if
Right.
you're operating very luxurious homes, for instance, it really makes sense to list on the luxury channels like Plum Guide, HMV by Marriott Bonvoy, that are really focused on curated listings, but also offering to a group of people that are able to pay the higher ADRs, that are staying longer, and willing to book these often bigger homes for large amounts. And so for every property manager, there's a different mix again. So that's really the reason why we also operate such a big platform.
So if here I am as a property manager and I'm thinking, okay, this sounds great. I really should, widen my distribution. And so Nextpax can help with that. Can Nextpax help figure out which of the 150 plus potentially makes sense, and what does it look like to actually begin working with Nextpax?
Yeah, I think we have a team of very experienced sales consultants that know the regions, the markets that they're selling into, and they know often if after a single call they know already which channels to start with, and then gradually expanding new options after. The way we start relationships is that, yeah, we first have this consultancy call in place in order to discover the need because we have different products for different sizes of property managers. But generally, how we start business relationships and can start actually the connectivity is either partners are already working with a PMS that's associated in our PMS ecosystem. So we connect today with more than 20 PMS systems, and if you're already a user of such a PMS system, then it's a very easy path to integrate from that PMS system over into our channel manager. And often there's already automated channel management in place therefrom. And then we have two other options, relatively new options. For smaller to mid-sized property managers, we also have an all-in-one solution because we have learned after speaking with a lot of property managers, that there's also a bunch of property managers, especially in the long tail segment, meaning 1 to 20 accommodations,
Hmm.
that still use Excel sheets or work with Airbnb in a host account setup or work directly with Verbo as a platform partner. But they now see the benefit of doing multitude of channels. And so we have developed a application, web-based, in which they can directly upload their properties and make sure that to enable the channel management basically. So they don't need to do a whole acquisition tour of a PMS system. It's easy and we go from there. And then for the last segment, which is often the bit higher or the larger numbers in holiday homes and apartments, if you have a property manager that has, for instance, thousands of properties and they also have their own development team, they can also connect directly using an API. So we have built a supply API, and that integration timeline for a supply API generally is a little bit longer than just to add properties into a system and to get it live on a channel. But within a couple of weeks, you can build an integration towards a supply API and then distribute larger sums of accommodations. So these are three ways that accommodation partners can start working with our software. So you can import from existing PMS, you can load your properties in our central distribution system, which is an all-in-one platform for smaller property managers. And if you have a large dev team and you have the amount of properties, that would also make it logical to do an API integration, you can do it via that way.
And your pricing model with Nextpax?
Yeah, there's also something which is quite different from a lot of players in the industry, is that we operate on a transaction-based percentual model for all of the transactions. And that's the only pricing model that we have. So let's say you generate 10 bookings, then we have over those 10 bookings a percentage per booking based on the rental amount. And we don't charge over taxes and or canceled bookings, basically.
Okay. So that percentage is not calculated based on including the taxes and
Yeah. So purely on the rental rate that you basically set. And as long as if for instance a cancellation is happening and you offer the traveler free cancellation, then basically also we're not charging the percentual fee. And we operate this model because we think that in this industry, if we operate a percentage-based model, it means that if the property manager is winning and the channel is winning, we are winning. And so this also optimizes our focus to be on conversion. We
right.
don't have to sell additional features. We don't have to group packages in order to say, okay, well, the value of messaging and reviews is like this, and the value of content optimization is this. So you pay the normal price plus this package if you want to automate your messaging. We believe that the tools that we build are all to positively influence conversion. And for instance, I will give you an example, this messaging and reviews. If we have this tool and we deliver it to the property manager, the response rate is going up. The
Mhm.
number of responses to guest reviews is going up. The messages are being responded earlier. And all of these things, they bring then indirect value to the fact, okay, property managers are meeting the requirements to become superhost or any other preferred status with a platform. The ranking of these properties are increasing. And by the ranking increase, they get more reservations because they are better placed on those websites. And that's why we say we will do all the effort necessary to make them convert. And once they convert, we all profit from it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that sometimes when people hear that it's that a platform charges a percentage of revenue, that can make people initially gun shy. But not only, like you mentioned, when they get a booking, that's the only time they have to pay. It
Yeah,
does it aligns your goals because as the property manager, I want bookings. Now my provider has that similar goal. They want me to get bookings, but then also kind of a side benefit is that if you're in a market that's seasonal, with platforms that have a flat rate fee, you pay that fee regardless of the months where you maybe only have one or two reservations or none, just because seasonality, that property is very quiet. And so being connected to solutions that are revenue driven as far as what you end up paying is a great way to kind of almost automate reducing your expenses during those times where your revenue is actually down. It happens naturally.
I mean, we don't present any property manager with any overhead cost. While there are examples in the market where people pay $100 a month just for having a technology tool running, even if they're not converting bookings. And I see examples that people have to pay X amount of dollars to load their annual pricing or to add another subset of a solution. And I feel that is not transparent, and that's also why we are not operating under that model. Yeah, that's basically our promise. We deliver and we get paid, and that's where we are for in this business.
Yeah. Well, and there are other companies that do the percentage based as well. And I guess
Yeah,
the reason that I felt that it was worth talking about that is because there are definitely pros and cons. And so it's worth taking a minute to consider the advantages that come
yeah,
with using a solution that has a percentage based payment model. So
yeah.
thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So, Lennart, thank you so much. A lot of education here, not only about the value that comes with connecting with a channel manager, expanding your distribution, but additionally, thoughts on the automation of various aspects of managing your property. And that is always a very important as well. So, thank you so much for educating us on channel management and Nextpax.
Well, thank you, Christian, for inviting me for this podcast, and it was really nice talk. And this industry is never finished talking about this.
Right, right. And so I also wanted to mention that one of the things that Lennart is going to do is he's actually going to give us an opportunity to get a sneak peek and take a look at the platform Nextpax. So thank you, everybody who joined us on the podcast. Be sure to join us next time where we have a conversation with the innovators who are designing the solutions that are shaping our industry. And now Lennart and I are going to have a little peek at what Nextpax looks like.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
So, Christian, I'm not sure you can see this already, right? Yeah.
We're going to put it up on the screen so everybody can see. All right, we're good to go. We can see
All right.
the dashboard there of Nextpax, and everybody can still hear us, but I've actually taken us off of the screen so that we really are focusing on getting a look at Nextpax here.
Okay, great. So, what we're going to show you, or what I'm going to show you at the moment, is our new all-in-one platform, which is specifically designed for operators that run zero, no, not zero, but 1 to 30, 50 accommodations.
Mhm.
And they want to have a web-based application in which they can manage these accommodations, the prices, the availability, all the settings towards the channels, and basically make sure to optimize their business. This is a sneak peek. So this is sort of a demo property manager that we have built.
Mhm.
And yeah, we can go through the system and I will explain you various features. So when you arrive in a CDS, which by the way has a easy step registration process, I think you can complete registration within a matter of like 3 minutes and then
Wow.
start building your recommendations. We simply just need to know who you are as a property manager, how many accommodations you have, and where your business details are registered, etc.
Mhm.
And then basically you're getting an account, you can log in. I will later on also log out to show you the registration process. But here we are in the dashboard. And as this is a demo, property manager is not filled with data, but you can basically see what guests are arriving, what guests are leaving, how many bookings were made on today. You can also see that for tomorrow and for the whole week. Now, well, here actually a guest is arriving. It says for which property, number of guests, so that
Mhm.
your office teams or your support staff is actually, yeah, aware. On the right hand side, you have this action items. So sometimes we show action items to property managers. Hey, for instance, upgrade your pictures, or we have enabled the channel, but you haven't enabled any accommodations yet for the channel. So these
Right.
actions will help the property manager to understand, okay, I have things to complete if I want to optimize my business.
Right. That's great.
Yeah, and then from here you can also build new accommodations. The cool thing about the solution also is that it is supported in English, American English, because that's still a different language. We know
Slightly different.
slightly different. And then Dutch, German, and Spanish, and there are also other languages coming. So yeah, we envision this to be a multi-unit or multi-language tool. And we also provide news articles on like new features that we bring into the CDS. So essentially, all the updates are provided within the technology.
Perfect.
On the left-hand side, we have a couple of menu items. You see a couple of things grayed out because they are upcoming, but we already want the people to know that it's coming.
Hmm.
But of course, one of the most important elements is the calendar. And here you see, for instance, all of the accommodations that the property manager is using within this system. And for instance, well, if we go to this one, you can see here the complete calendar. This is the place where you would be able to like add pricing or add availability. We can load availability and pricing for quite some years out so that you stay available, but also for the early bookers.
Hmm.
There are some rules that you can set, and there is the opportunity to sometimes use an iCal. Still not the preferred way of doing it because iCal has some risk in loading availability and pricing completely correct. But
That functionality is still
that
there.
functionality is there. So if you want to use it, then you can do it. And well, we'll leave the page because we're not going to set up an iCal now. You can also load different cancellation and prepayment policies because that's very important, of course.
For different channels.
For different channels, yeah, I
Oh, that's
can
good.
we can hover over a bit. Depends on how many channels you have active. You
Mhm.
have always a default policy, but when you activate certain channels, and that's again, not all channels allow all policies. So, for instance, with Airbnb and Vrbo, you have maybe 5 options and a custom one.
Mhm.
And with Booking.com, you can choose from, I think it's close to 120 policies, but not always the policy that you have for your own website. So,
Right.
we allow for different policies to be used on different channels.
Channels. Yeah.
To make changes to the default policy, you can go to settings. Here you can also add a new policy. Well, and then you can
Build that
basically
out.
build that up with a variety of steps.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
and then
And you can
on
just set it up and forget about it. You can just leave it.
well, leave it and be sure that we distribute it correctly towards the
Yes.
channel, right? Because we already understand that different policies suit different channels, and so we would never push a policy to a channel that can't accept it and leave you without a policy or so.
Is there the ability to adjust the pricing by channel as well?
Yeah. This is a feature that we consult on basically. So if a property manager wants to have this feature, we can enable it, but then we need to have conversations as to, okay, do you want to set different pricing? What's the reason why you
Mm.
actually want to do it? What's also healthy? It's not healthy to say, okay, oh, Booking.com is charging me, let's say 15% commission. Let's add up the prices, which were economic and market competitive with 15%. Like that is going to, yeah, make your accommodations on those channels also less price competitive. And if they become less price competitive, they are also becoming less, yeah, they are getting ranked lower.
Right.
So it's not always the wisest choice to just offset your commission by using the market tool, the pricing per channel. But we do consult on that
Yeah.
because sometimes what we see is that property managers want to yield a bit and they want to be a bit more smarter around, okay, I need my pricing on certain portals to be more price sensitive than on others because those travelers are more price sensitive.
Right.
There are channels, as explained earlier in the podcast, also that are less price sensitive, and so then you can optimize your price a bit better. And there are channels that are more price sensitive. So we not only see people putting up markups, but we also see people putting markdowns
Mm.
or discounts on certain channels because they know that that traveler group will then more easily convert.
Yeah,
That tool is available.
that's a very good point.
Yeah, then as we talked about content a lot, I'll take this one. This is a nice one. This is where people can really manage all of the aspects of their accommodation. So like check-in, check-out timings, the address location, and like the general information. All the photos that they can provide. They can even tag those pictures that will help them to convert on the channels.
Well, then I
Uh,
can see that you can manage the captions as well.
yeah, captions, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. On the descriptions, we allow descriptions to be multi-language, and also we have different description types for additional fees, the areas, the arrival days, discounts, etc. Often
Hmm.
channels do that through amenities, but there is also a lot of channels that still want this in a descriptive way because of their user bases, right?
Right.
Uh, Distances, although we have Google Maps and all navigations of the world, it's still impactful for like search engine optimization and also within the platforms for filters, right? So
Mm.
a lot of the distances are still distributed towards the channel. So if you're a property manager and you're in a popular destination for, well, for instance, here, a lot of beaches and, well, the distance to the international airport, the restaurant areas, it is really important to still feature that because those sales platforms will also filter on it or
Ah.
provide filters to travelers.
Yeah, I've myself have done travel searches, and I want to be within a certain range of the airport or,
Yeah,
Disneyland or whatever it is.
I foresee in the future this becomes less relevant for us as a channel manager to focus on as the location and the OTAs are doing their own stuff also, but we also are distributing towards platforms that don't do that. And
Mm.
not every platform has developed their own capabilities on this. So for now, we remain very active in providing as many or motivating accommodation partners to provide as many distances as they can. Another part of the content that's quite important, and that's also why it has a separate, there it is, a separate menu item in this aspect, is the amenities.
Mhm.
So we group amenities so that we can bring amenities in a sort of subject. So here you see all the food and drink amenities, all the media and technology. There's also this big need over COVID for cleaning and hygiene. So all kind of processes, for instance, using of cleaning chemicals that are effective against coronavirus. Luckily, that period is behind us, but it shows how Corona has driven a focus to deliver cleaning and hygiene amenities. And another topic, which is maybe even more important, is this whole topic of sustainability
Yes.
and accessibility.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think we will see more of this and more grouping, let's say, around amenities. Even for, and this is not so big within VR yet, but for hotels that operate executive lounges or business centers, or
Mhm.
the fact that there is a conference room available or meeting facilities, we see a bigger trend of leisure. So combining business with leisure
Mhm.
and travel. And people do often go for an offsite in a vacation rental. So if you have vacation rentals already that have, for instance, a conference room, or they are at least offering an office space or printing facilities, they can take it over here. But that said, it is of course important to take as many amenities that are within this platform or within the accommodation. Sorry.
Yes.
Pricing, as said, we can do this per different channel, and we have a way to set additional fees. We can, for instance, say we want a cleaning fee.
Do you have the ability for people who manage large portfolios to do bulk changes to pricing or like
Yeah,
cost?
we do. But if you have large amount of recommendations, maybe this is not the way we are going to operate with each other. If you have really large amount of recommendations, we would go for an API integration.
Mm,
But there are bulk tools available that the property manager can use, and our onboarding and support staff can also perform bulk actions on behalf of the property manager.
okay.
So we have had occasions there was no API integration, but there needed to be a surcharge for childcare imported on
Mm,
like 600 properties. Of course, we as a channel manager can do that. But what we're looking at right now, is really a system that's tailored to like the ones that are using not many accommodations, and then these bulk changes often, yeah, they disappear quite rapidly. But if it's needed, then we can perform those.
good to know.
Yeah. So, well, what we were doing cleaning fee, right? So we do the final cleaning, and then you can also select, all right, is this obligatory? Is this included in the rent? Is this paid at location? Well, let's do it pay at location. And then you can say, okay, this is price per stay. And then you can even choose between a fixed amount and or a percentage. And then for the US, in a lot of states, there is tax being charged over quite a bit of the extra fees or the additional fees. So then
Mhm.
here you can define the tax amount, which in the US mostly is a percentage, depending on what state you're in. So this is how you can manage all the additional fees and such.
That's great that that functionality is in there because, I mean, since Nextpax is kind of an international company, it's great that they've built in those features to address the taxes and financial issues regarding their clients.
And this was not
Ro-
easy thing to develop. I think we had, yeah, the development timeline of this feature was involved quite a bit of time, resources, and research. And I think still today the US team for like discovering all the different regulations around taxes being charged over additional fees, that we were now able to build up this feature. It's just a small thing like over here, and you just add a percentage. But yeah, we needed to learn quite a bit in order to say, okay, this is really an important feature for the US. What kind of different models are there? And we found that this is the way to do it.
That's great.
Taxes where it's not already being set by the portals, you can also do that. You can also have different taxes per channel. And then here we have the subroom information. So basically, this Sweet Dream apartment, they have 2 bathrooms and about 3 bedrooms and a living room. What people then also can do to further sophisticate their content is say, okay, within this bathroom, we have actually a bathtub and we have a bunk bed. They still need to change that, but there is, for instance, also a hand shower,
Mhm.
etc. And they can also delete, they can increase the quantity. And in terms of the bed types, if you go to the bedrooms, all the bed types are also supported.
Yep. King,
And
queen, double, etc.
so
Single.
for king bed, well, you can say this is one quantity. And from a king bed, we know already that there is capacity for 2. So if you have 2, it will automatically go to 4. Should go to 4, but maybe that's something that they're
So you can
still.
get very granular with building out
Yeah, and I
different
will say
things.
the bigger your holiday home gets, the more granular you need to be on providing this type of information, because these vacation rentals are booked by one member of the family, who of course want to make sure that every person of the family or group is having a comfortable bedroom. And the more information you can provide, the more assurance you give for the guest, that leads to more conversion on especially the larger homes. But even for the smaller homes, if you're traveling with a family and you want to secure that you have a good bedroom for the kids,
Right.
uh, etc., then it's also of vital importance. But the bigger the accommodations get, the more granular you need to get on every room.
So if I have a property management software, will this automatically pull some of this information about my listings over?
Yeah, so a lot of the PMS softwares nowadays, they do already the heavy lifting for you and provide subroom information into Nextpax.
Okay.
And if the, so we will do always our best in order to maximize the information we get from those APIs and connectivities with the PMS systems. And on top of that, we offer the opportunity to enrich the content. So let's say from a particular PMS, you would only be able to get the number of bathrooms, the number of bedrooms, the beds being used in each of the bedrooms, but not whether the bathroom one has a shower or a bath or other functionalities. Then, as a property manager, you will see what has been imported and what you can still add yourself. So we offer, and we call that content enrichment opportunities, because not every PMS has the same capability on this topic, especially.
Hmm.
Yeah, then another important aspect, I think, if we go down to reservations, you of course want to see all the reservations. This demo property manager we actually distribute to Marriott, and then you can see here all the booking details about basically the reservation.
Yes.
And for customer details, because we are also very cautious about PCI compliance, credit card compliance, and also PAI compliance, there's an additional step just to click this and then you can see the customer details. But in fact, for the reservation, that should not be that visible always. But here you can see it's also broken down by kids, infants, pets, the arrival date, departure. We can even modify reservations. You can cancel reservations. That is not available with all channels. For instance, Booking.com, they want the traveler to only have the cancellation feature and not the property manager.
Mm.
But for many channels, there is actually an opportunity to do that. And you can see here all the rules. So you have the standard cancellation policy. I think if you hover, okay, the rent price, the fees and taxes, damage deposit if that's applied, and then the total amount.
Hmm.
For API customers, that they also have this, but this is not within this tool, but some of the bigger partners, they can also see all the logs, API logs. So then, yeah, that helps them also sometimes to understand, especially for technical context, how to do that. And within this overview, you can also add new reservations. So this can be done for any property, any channel. And if you say it's a direct reservation, you first have to select the property. Yeah. And if you say it's a direct, if it is a direct reservation, the channels start to change into, hey, what is the source of this direct reservation? Was the
Mm.
reservation a phone, by email, or from your website? In case your website is not plugged into our CDS yet. And then it is just the normal operational business that you add a new reservation with all the details of the customer, the period, and the family group size.
Hmm.
Then over to the channels. Here you can select which channels are on and off. So
Very intuitive and straightforward.
yeah, it's quite straightforward. We also provide with a link so that you can get more information and with sort of a short description. How the process works, you make a contract with the channel, you enable them, and then, for instance, well, you see Airbnb is being enabled. Then you need to fill out the channel settings because each of the channel has, for instance, separate settings. If you're in existing channels, okay, well, this is still in beta. But so there is not really settings there yet, but they should normally pop up
Yeah, that makes sense.
as
I can see
to,
how that functionality works.
yeah. And here, for instance, this is for Homes and Villas by Marriott. Here you fill in the ID that you got from the Marriott team, and then basically there are some settings related to Marriott that you can utilize, whether you want to be on instant book only or also accept booking requests, whether you want to use taxable fees again, or whether you want to use a headline instead of the property name. These are some of the settings that you can operate.
Can customize. Yeah.
Specific to Marriott. And then you can start to enable properties. So you select this, you select here again sort of bulk functionality or just one, and then you can just, well, let's say I'm going to enable this property, and then you press enable. Then there's also the choice whether you want to enable the property only on like pricing and availability also, or also the content. And this is especially happening for hotels. They only want to manage pricing and availability. Well, that's also fine if you want to do that. So we
Yeah,
offer two choices.
that's good to have that flexibility.
Yeah, especially sometimes you have a hotel who has already been for years on booking.com, and that hotel just wants to use a different channel manager but doesn't want to change the whole advertisement or the way of working in that sense. But they just want pricing and availability to flow over correctly. And then we can also do that. So, and once they are distributed, we also get the status back from most of the channels. So they would say, okay, the property is live, here's the URL that you can go to. And in that way, you can like also manage and see if all your recommendations are live or whether there are certain action items to complete. As said, messaging and reviews. Yeah, these are the grayed out functionalities at the
Yeah,
moment, but they are coming within this central distribution system very soon. And that will enable you to manage reviews, manage messaging, as we talked about. Messaging and reviews is already available for the larger customers, but
yeah,
in this new tool that we have, we still need to do one bits and pieces.
that's great.
Yeah, and then over here, people can fill in their details and have sort of the account settings that they require. They can also add social media accounts so that we can put them on the booking engine that we have. Uh,
Perfect.
Different contact information for different purposes. So you would have a technical contact, maybe a commercial contact, maybe someone from customer service or from operations. We even support different payment providers within this tool. So Stripe is the first one enabled.
Hmm.
And then we are thinking about
Some
doing
other
this.
partnerships.
You can see all the transaction history of that payment provider if enabled. So you can see, you can manage basically payments through this one.
That's great.
And then on tools, well, these are sort of the tools that we have available, and not always all the tools are available yet because they are available to our larger set of customers. And we are trying to think which tools should we bring into the CDS. But for instance, here we have the property policies in which you are able to define, hey, how am I dealing with, how kids friendly am I?
Yeah.
How friendly am I? Rules around security deposit, key collection, parking internet, house rules and guest information, which is getting extremely important,
Yeah.
where we even allow some free text for some of the house rules. And then in terms of notifications, despite we deliver everything via technology, sometimes people want to get a notification. So either on their email address or as a message, where they can enable for instance, okay, if it is request to book, I still want to get an email because I might be on the road. I just want a quick checkly. And then once we enable it over here, the accommodation partner, they will get a notification via email with a link to go into this CDS environment. And this environment is also mobile friendly. So even if they're on the road, they can accept a reservation. It's quite handy if you're on the road to pick up the linen from the cleaning service, or to fix the garden in some sort of shape. Then it's quite easy to be notified. So that still happens. And then this is for finance. We want to understand the finance details and yeah, basically share the invoices of Nextpax for our percentage-based model.
Mhm.
But that's the settings. And that's quite a quick overview of the tool. I will now log out.
A lot that you could do. As you were going through that, the question that I had, and I'll come back to the two of us here. One of the
Yeah,
questions that I had, the messaging for the guests, is that mostly through email or email and SMS, or what's available for that?
Yeah, so that's a quite interesting one. So on the demand side, we are currently integrated with Booking.com, Airbnb, and we hope this year to finalize also Verbo for messaging and reviews
On
and
their platform's messaging.
platform messaging, right?
Mhm.
And then we are constantly developing. So we're also offering this to other partners via our own messaging API already. And
Mm.
there are currently partners integrating our messaging API from both the demand side and the supply side to do this. And we are thinking to also include messaging in our own booking engine, where we can, yeah, get messages for direct reservations. On the supply side, people can use the UI that will become available over here, but they can also provide us with an email address so that we can forward all the API-led messaging, platform messaging, again in an inbox. And
Mm.
sometimes this is welcomed by property managers because they will provide us an email address, which they then include in a HubSpot, in an intercom, and
Mm.
in a Zendesk for that matter. And then we're actually able to make sure that all the messages get into the platform of choice. And also on the supply side, we have an API. So if you're again a big partner and you have your own system and you want to connect all the messages and reviews from the channel partners that we operate, then you can also do that in your own system. But I think 90% of the consumers that are using this system will utilize the basically the inbox that we are going to provide here.
That's perfect. Lennart, you have been a pleasure to speak with. I've learned all kinds of things about Nextpax that I didn't know, and getting a chance to get in there and get walked around the platform and learn a little about that. That was extremely helpful. So thank you so much. Any other final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I think if you want to get in touch with our support teams, that is always possible. You can do
Yeah,
this,
tell us how people find you.
yeah, support at nextpax.com, and our consultants will be very happy to help. And who knows, we can welcome you as a new partner of Nextpax.
Yeah, that's great. So thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and it was a pleasure to speak with you, Christian. And yeah, looking forward to a next edition, I would say.
Yes, thank you.